now the person says, no, you can't buy, right? So now communication is complete because the other person has rejected and said, no, I don't want, right? So here we have seen communication between offerer and the acceptor is very important, right? It should be complete. Yes, we know that. But, another question comes, as I said, right? Can it be revoked? Once you have offered something to another person, can it be revoked? Now, here also communication is important, right? The communication, first of all, how the offerer has sent and the time at which he has sent, right? And the acceptor, the time at which he receives the message, and also the time at which he has responded or given an answer or response to the offer, right? Or given his consent of acceptance, right? So that is very important. Communication is very important. So first one you can see like as against the person who makes it, when it is put into a course of transmission to the person to whom it is made, right? So as to be out of the power of the person who makes it. Now, you look at this example, then you will understand. A proposes by a letter to sell a house to B at certain price. The letter is posted on 15th May, right? It reaches B on the 19th May. Now, A revokes his offer by telegram on 18th May. The telegram reaches B on 20th May. Now, the revocation is complete as against A when the telegram is dispatched on 18th. It is complete as against B when he receives it, that is on 20th. Now, one thing we need to understand is the time at which the message is sent, the communication is sent to the acceptor, and the time at which the acceptor sends his, his or her response to the offer, right? So that is very important. This is explained in section 5. An acceptance may be revoked at any time before the communication of the acceptance is complete as against the acceptor, but not afterward, right? So you can refuse your acceptance, right? Before you send the communication to the offerer, right? Now, see, A proposes by letter sent by post to sell his house to B. So the letter is posted on the first of the month, right? Now, B accepts the proposal by letter sent by post on 4th. The letter reaches A on 6th, right? Now, A may revoke his offer at any time before B posts his letter of acceptance. So, say for example, I am sending a letter a letter of offer to you, right? Today I am sending it. By the time you receive it, right? By the time you receive it, I should immediately, for example, as soon as I, post my letter, I realize I don't want to offer it to you, right? And there is a reason. And I can revoke the offer because you have not yet, accepted it. You have not yet seen it, right? Now, but not afterwards, right? So I can, revoke my offer any time before, A may revoke his offer at any time before B posts his letter of acceptance, right? So you are the acceptor before you, give your acceptance, and these days it's all by mail and all that. So think of an example right now, right? So before you send a mail, I can, revoke my offer, right? I can revoke my offer. And before even I receive the message from you, you can revoke your acceptance. So B may revoke his acceptance at any time before the letter of acceptance reaches A. So before you send your mail and you are revoking your acceptance, right? And that means what? I should accept that, right? You have already revoked it. You have stopped, right? Your acceptance. So that I need to accept that part. So it can be revoked by the offerer and by the acceptor. But the time is important. The time at which I send the message, that is very important, right? And the time at which you as an acceptor, you send the message. So before you send it, before you send a message, Now, say for example, you are sending a message to me saying that I am accepting it. I am accepting your offer. The very next message, you are deleting that, because nowadays in WhatsApp, you delete it immediately, right? You delete it, but I have already seen it, right? You delete it and say, sorry, I don't want to accept it. But I will take it as an acceptance. I will not take it as, revoked. It is not revoked because I have seen it. You have given your acceptance and I have seen it and I will stand by it, right? That is enforced by law. Okay. So I hope you have understood it, right? So even if, you send a message and then you delete the message, right? And then you say, I've already revoked it. I cannot accept that, right? It is not revoked. From my side, it is not revoked because I have seen your message and I have known it, right? So even if I have not known it, you have already sent, right? The message has already been sent. Then so it cannot be revoked. But it can be revoked before you send it, right? Before even, for example, another example you take, you start typing it, saying that, yes, thank you, I accept and all that, but you have not sent it. Suddenly you realize you don't want this offer. Then you're deleting the message. You have not sent it, right? You have not sent it, but you're deleting it. That's fine. Clear? So the time at which the offerer, offers his offer, that is very important, right? So he can revoke it any time before the offer reaches the acceptor, right? So, and the same way, even the acceptor can revoke it before it reaches before he sends it, before he sends his acceptance, he can revoke it at any time, but not later, right? So now this one you can see it. So revocation or lapse of offer, right? So by how do you do it? By communication of notice of revocation by the offerer at any time before its acceptance is complete, as against him. This is a 6. See the example. Auction sale, A makes the highest bid. Draws the bid before the So offer is revoked before it's accepted. He makes the bid, it's the highest bid, right? But he withdraws his bid before the hammer, is done. So before it falls, he gives his revocation. So it all goes by the fall of the hammer. Before it goes, if you revoke it, yes. But afterwards, you cannot revoke it. Then the next one, by lapse of time, that one we've already explained also. You must be remembering this case also, Ramsgate Victoria Hotel, right? Have you seen the time at which you occupy I give you an example of the owner and the tenant, right? The time at which the owner is offering his place, right? The time at which I as a tenant not accepting it, first I accept it and then later on I go and occupy it late. Can you no, it can be revoked, right? Because there is lapse of time, right? And by non-fulfillment by the offeree of a condition precedent to acceptance, right? So we know about terms and conditions and all that. So if a person is fails to do it, then it can be revoked, right? So here is an example. X offers to sell his house to Y, subject to the condition that B, the buyer, pays the agreed price before a certain date. But if B fails to pay the price, yes, it can be revoked, right? So because condition is not fulfilled, so it can be revoked on that point. Then by death of a person, of the offerer, suddenly the offerer dies, right? So that means it's revoked, or that person becomes insane. Then it can be revoked. It stands revoked, right? Then if a counter offer is made, this case we have already seen. We have already seen this case. I hope you remember it, right? Say for example, you are offering a product to me and you are quoting 10,000 rupees, and I am giving you only 9,000 rupees. Now you will not accept that. It is a counter offer that I am making, right? Now if it has to be complete, this counter offer has to be accepted. Again, offer is made, again, acceptance has to be given, communication should be complete, and also the time at which the communication is sent, the acceptance is sent, all that has to be. Just because there is a counter offer, it cannot be. It can be revoked, right? Now, say for example, like this is a case. We've already seen that. If you remember, Hyde versus Wrench. So W offered to sell a farm to H for 1,000 pounds. He offered 950 pounds. Now W refused the offer. Now subsequently H offered to purchase a farm. So following which he agrees. He says, okay, let me pay that 1,000 pounds. Held there was no contract, as H by offering 950 pounds had rejected the original offer. Now the counter offer to a proposal amount to its rejection, right? So first he quoted the price, but the other person paid a lesser amount, so it is revoked. The first offer is revoked, right? For this counter offer, again there has to be another contract, right? So counter offer cannot be accepted, right? It can be revoked. If an offer is not accepted according to the prescribed or usual mode. So this we have already seen that, right? So once it is prescribed, that it has to be sent on a particular mode, it has to be sent only on that mode. They have to follow it, right? Now, if the law is changed, making the offer illegal or incapable of performance, I think logically we can understand this, because what the law says, yes, right? Now, if the law, comes into play and says that, for example, it is done, on a, prohibited product, right? So the law says, no, it cannot be offered. Although the acceptance has been made, it cannot be, right? It can be revoked. Now, rejection of offer, the rejection can be done, maybe it can be express rejection, because you are putting it in words, sending a letter or mail, right? It can be in written form or in oral. There can be express rejection, orally or through written form, or it can be even implied rejection, right? Where the offeree gives a conditional acceptance, it can be a implied rejection also, right? Say for example, again, the prohibited product, right? It can be implied rejection, right? So I hope you have understood offer and acceptance, and when it can be complete, and when it can be offer and acceptance can be revoked, right? I hope you have understood it. And now we'll move on to the next, the third part. We'll just see few of it, not all, and then just wait a minute. No? So hope offer and acceptance is clear, and communication and revocation is clear to you, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So we'll move on to consideration, right? I'm going a little fast because you need to be ready for your test also. So, 1 second. Now we are moving on to unit 2, right? So unit 1, we have seen the nature of contract. We have seen offer and acceptance, and when offer and acceptance can be revoked. Okay. Now the third, in the second unit, we start with consideration, and of course, offer, acceptance, consideration all together. We have to study together, understand it together, right? Now we know consideration is something in return, right? Now I am selling my my car to you, right? And you're, for example, like now I say 5 lakh of rupees or 4 lakhs. Now this 4 lakh is a consideration for me, because when you pay the money, right, that money is the consideration for me. For you, what is the consideration? Now I am offering a car to you, right? That is the consideration, is what? The money which I get from you. For you, it is the product. The car. That is the consideration, right? And interestingly, we are also going to see there are negative consideration also, right? So we will see that. But basically, that is something that you get in return, right? It can be in any form. It can be in any form, not just in money. Here it is money, but we will see, how not just the money, but anything. See, something that you sacrifice, right? Something that you sacrifice. And say, for example, you are giving a product on credit to me, right? And sometimes, like, I may fail to pay also, but this credit that you are giving, that itself is a consideration, right? That itself is a consideration. It is not, it's a consideration on your part. It is a sacrifice that you're making. For these days, you're parting with your money. You're not getting that money, right? You have not, you're not getting that money. You're going to get it only after a month. For that 1 month, you're sacrificing your money, right? So on your part, the sacrifice that you are making, right? Sometimes the act that you don't want to do it, you don't want to harm anyone, you don't want to do anything. Now, so it can be in any form. Consideration is something which, the very term is, it is something, and something in return, right? So that is, so you have to understand consideration from a broader perspective, not just, not just the money alone, right? So it can come in different forms. Consideration can come in different forms, right? Now, but any agreement made without consideration, it is void. When you find that both of us are getting into a dealing, right? And if there is no consideration, right, there is nothing comes in return, that means what? It is void, right? That contract is void, that agreement is void, and that contract is void. So if it has to be enforceable by law, then there has to be a consideration, right? So an agreement without consideration refers to a promise that is not legally enforceable. So tomorrow, for example, if there is no consideration, still we are agreeing on certain things, and then tomorrow we cannot legally enforce it, right? If there is an issue. So it is a technical term used in the sense of, quid pro quo, that is something in return. That's what it means, right? Now, here is an example. A agrees to sell his car, right? Price is the consideration. Right? It may consist either in some right, right? It can be a right. But you look at the definition, right? As the buyer, definition gives you have your rights. In law, these days we talk about right to information, right? I need to get some information, right? That is the right. Now, it is not the money, but it is the information. The right to information, that becomes a consideration, right? And interest, it can be interest, it can be profit, it can be some benefit, right? So if you look at it from one side, it can be, money in terms of profit, or it can be some gain, it can be some benefit, it can be in terms of interest or right, all that you call it as consideration, right? Now, it can even be some forbearance, right? See, I'm not able to pay the money to you. For example, like, you have, sold a product on credit, right? And I'm not able to, pay back the money. I'm asking you for extension, right? And you're giving me 1 more month extension. On your part, that forbearance is, consideration, right? See, I'm getting the, you are sacrificing, right? From your side, you are sacrificing. That money, for that 1 month, you're parting with that money, right? So forbearance is, it can be a contribution, it can be a consideration. Detriment also can be a consideration. That is something that is causing harm, right? That can be a consideration. Loss or responsibility given, there can be loss, even that can be. See, both of us have dealings, and suddenly in some issue, like you as a seller, say for example, you're quoting a price, right? Exporter and importer, you're quoting a price, right? And it takes time for you to deliver the product, and by the time you deliver the product, the price, there's some price inflation, and there is cost high, and all that, right? And I, as a importer, I am paying the price that is quoted by you in the beginning according to the agreement. For you, it's a loss, right? So there can be a loss, there can be a responsibility given or suffered or undertaken by the other. So, when you say consideration, it can, you have to study it from a broader perspective. It is not just the money alone, it can be in anything, in any form, right? For both the parties, the consideration can be in any form, right? It can be in any form. For example, employer pays the salary, and this month employer did not have any profit at all, but still he is paying the salary. It is a loss for him. He hasn't got profit, right? But it is an expense for him, right? Huge expense for him. Now that is a sacrifice that he makes to pay that salary to the employees, although the employer has incurred loss, right? So consideration can be in any form, right? Now, say for example, A lends his bicycle to B, who promises to return it after use, right? Now this results in a benefit to B, right? And a detriment to A because he parts with his bicycle for a few days, because he offers or he lends his bicycle, or it can be a money that he lends, right? It can be something that you lend to your friend, right, who promises that so and so will return it back to you. For that many days, like you are parting with your product, something, or money, or something that you are parting with. Now that is what consideration, right? Now this is in support to what B's promise to return the bicycle, right? So it can be in any form, right? It can now Justice Patterson defines consideration as what? Consideration means something which is of some value in the eye of law. It may be some benefit to the plaintiff or some detriment to the defendant, right? It can be both. The case is Thomas versus Thomas. It can be both, right? It may be some benefit or some detriment to the defendant. It can come in both the ways, because there are a lot of issues, dealings that happen, and their consideration can be really different, and it differs from case to case, right? Now here is a case. The secretary of here is a mosque. So sorry,
Ma'am, the screen has not yet been shared, ma'am.
oh sorry. Thanks for off. This was the first, I think. Yeah. So hope you can see it now. Okay, here is the example, right? And here is the case also. So here is a mosque, right? And subscription has to be given, by one person, right? Now, because the person did not give the subscription, the mosque committee, files a case saying that so and so has not, given the subscription or the money to rebuild the mosque, right? Now, the promise was not enforceable. Why it was not enforceable? Because there was no consideration in the sense of benefit, right? As the person who made the promise gained nothing in return for the promise made. So I have promised to give subscription of 500 rupees or 5,000 rupees. What do I get in return out of it? Can you prove it? Right? If you are able to prove it, just because, for example, you say you have to repair this one particular wall, will I benefit from that wall? You're asking me money, right? To pay money for that, to repair that one particular place, right? But is there something in return, right? For the money that I pay? Then you can also get a lot of questions like, how about voluntary work and contribution that we make? All that, we'll come to that a little later, or else you can take it up as your third CA topic, right? That is interesting. But here, it was not enforceable by law. That's what the judgment was, because, the person who promised to give money did not get anything in return. So even if he doesn't give money, you can't claim it. How can you claim it? I've not given money, to you. I mean, to your, maybe it's a church building or a mosque or a temple. I have not given. I promise, but then I'm not giving. Right? You can't enforce it. You can't claim it. You have to forego, that's all. Because I will say what? I do not get anything in return. What is the consideration here? The question is, what is the consideration for both? Right? So that is the question. And so this was the case, and it was, it could not be enforced by law. Right? So what are the essentials of consideration? Right? First of all, there must be an act of doing something. Right? And it can be even abstinence or forbearance, like you stay away from doing something, right? So it can be even that. Say for example, here A promises B not to file a suit against if he pays him rupees 50,000. Now see, in the first case, you have lent money, right, for some interest. You have lent, for example, like 50,000 rupees, and then you have lent it for 20% interest, right? And then when I fail to do it, you say like you're going to claim that, and I promise, for example, you please give me time, I will pay it back, and the interest also can be higher, 25%. I will pay it at 25%, right? On that basis, you are saying, okay, let me not go to the court, right? I'm not going to pull you to the court. Now, you stay away from, filing a case against me. So that is the consideration on your part, right? So there has to be, when you say consideration, right, it is not just an act, but also it can be, you stay away from doing something to, another person. A return promise also, it should be there. For example, A agrees to sell his dog to B for 10,000. Here, B's promise to pay 10,000 is the consideration for A's promise, right, to sell his dog. And A's promise to sell the dog is the consideration for B, right? So this one, we have already seen that, right? Like, you have offered your car, right? So car is the consideration for me, and I am paying like 2 lakh of rupees. That money is the consideration to you, right? So a written promise, should be there, right? So legal rules, can we see tomorrow? I think, shall we see tomorrow? There are certain legal rules to consideration. So I think we will stop here. So I hope it's clear to you when it comes to consideration. I think you can even take it up as your third year topic and give various examples or cases